Hey, you guys, it is I, the Psy, and there's been a lot of talk lately on Discord and around the game about bots once again emerging within Modern, within Wild. When are we going to have a Wild only version for player versus player, human versus human? Is it going to be bots forever? Are the bots just going to extract all the SPS? And I thought of a pretty cool way. It's been discussed before, but I'm going to kind of lay it all out as best that I can in a way that we can at least mitigate bots, and that is with the three format solution. And is this an answer to botting? Is this a way that we can go ahead and we can give bots kind of like their own lane and allow there to be some human versus human? Now, I want to preface this with saying that I feel like it's even more important because when we check out Discord here and we go to video streams and content, Splinterlands 101, Inward Dog Deck Tech, rewards. We can see that there is new. No, it's not even. Where is it now? There's new bots that are even being released right now. Splinterlands promotion. All right, let's see if I can remember what it's called. I think it's called Hive-Wizard. Hive-Wizard. Hive Wizard. Hive Wizard. HiveWizard.com. No, it's not there. Okay. Well, there's a new one. I think it's called Hive Wizard that exists. It was previously under here in promotions or streams and videos or maybe Splinterland's websites. Here it is. Hive Wizard. Okay, I found it. I don't feel so silly now making this video and not being able to find what I'm looking for. So, I mean, you can even see that there's even more bots that are coming out, more battle helpers that are coming out. So they say that it's a tool and everything like that. It can show you the last 50 of the win probability. But then here's where things get really bad. Battle assistance, team suggestions, and suggestions for missing cards that can improve. But it's got the team suggestions, and these happen in live format. So you can see just by looking at this picture, they're talking about team suggestions live. And this is an all modern set of battles. I guess not all modern because it's got the failed summoner. But I mean, from what I've heard so far, it can do modern. And the philosophy that this guy is saying in Discord is that, hey, it might be against the terms of service, but creating the tool isn't against the terms of service, but using the tool is what's against the terms of service. And there are even rumblings about other providers who I will not name that also have like an underground battle helper and stuff that exists, or underground botting and all this other stuff that says, hey, we're not allowed to make it. You're just not allowed to use it. So I know there's a lot of humans that are worried about this, and there's a lot of humans that want to find a solution to the bots. Maybe a way to get the bots their share, a way to get the humans their share as well. So that's where we kind of come into the three format solution, and is it an answer to botting? So I'm going to kind of like read it verbatim, but I'm going to kind of also step in here and talk about it a little as we do so. So there's been a lot of discussion about bots, not just lately, but ongoing. We proposed and passed a no-bot modern because of the player sentiment based on a DAO vote, which helped to create a human versus human league. But can we do better? And should we? One of the proposed solutions that I and others have been advocating for is the formation of a third format. This third format, this league, would get a share of the reward pool and would be a bot-free league that would use all the cards from the wild format. There are a few naming conventions that I've been suggesting for this fabled third league, but for purpose of this discussion, I will refer to it as legacy, which its definition is something that's part of your history or that remains from an earlier time. So in this case, we're obviously referring to cards that are no longer in modern. They're part of the history. They're from a different time. So we're talking Untamed, Beta, Alpha, Dice, and all of their significant reward cards that came with it. So Wild would then truly be Wild, as its name suggests, a free-for-all battleground where bots, battle helpers, and any other forms of automation are allowed. So since we already have Bot League of Wild, why create a third league at all? So what are the benefits of creating this third league? So the obvious answer is to allow for a format that uses older cards that's human versus human. This would allow players who have accumulated older cards to have a place where they could face human competition and still enjoy a piece of the SPS reward pool. Because don't forget, right now what's happening is that there's so many bots that are playing in Wild that the SPS reward pool that's split for half modern, half wild, is all being eaten up by bots. There's nowhere where there's human versus human play where you can actually earn significant SPS rewards. Sure, you can beat up the bots and you can go ahead and you can build up your chests rather easily. But if you were a competitive player that thought, hey, you know what? If it was human on human, I could beat other humans. You want a piece of that SPS pie. And this would allow it to do that. In allowing a large share of SPS to be earned by human players, it puts more value on older cards, since right now the SPS rewards are virtually non-existent in Wild because the bots there are numerous and drain it rapidly. Wild is a ratings inflation paradise where accounts with low-level cards can face each other and win trade into higher positions than they should be able to achieve. Accounts that should be in silver at best are able to climb to gold or diamond, since you don't have to own good cards to compete in current Wild, you just need to face other underpowered accounts with artificially high ratings. It would also add more legitimacy to the game as an esport, since there would be another human versus human league where you could actually use the older cards. And you can see in the picture above that Wild has almost 20x the games played in Modern, and obviously most of those are by bots. Like this tiny little blue dot here is Modern, and this big purple line is Wild, and that's 18 to 20x the size of Modern. So you got little Modern and big Wild, so you can see how so many more games are being played in Wild, most of them by bots, and bot farms in particular. Even if those bot farms aren't earning SPS, they're creating ratings inflation, which is allowing their other bots to beat the easy bots to move up to in turn get more SPS, get more chests, and within the chests are where they're earning their SPS. They might not be getting battle SPS, but they're earning SPS through the chests, right? And just extracting it. So this would add value to all of the good older cards by extension. Now that would actually be important in order to win, since competition would be fierce and the win trade bots would no longer exist. And of course, we're talking about Legacy now. Just look at Modern. You can't compete at high levels without having a good deck. You'll either need to own or rent the key meta cards if you want a share of the rewards associated with the Legacy format. We're always looking for ways to add or retain value in older cards so that people are confident that their investment won't automatically drop 50% upon rotation, because that's what happens right now, right? The cards rotate out of Modern, they go into Wild, and then they're pretty much worthless. They've lost half their use cases because no humans want to battle bots in Wild. They're basically gone. They're just like done, never to be seen again. Maybe they'll be sold. Maybe they'll be put on the rental market for the bots to rent at a super cheap price because, I mean, no one else wants them, right? Having a league where those cards can still earn something is a great way to encourage buying and holding cards from the newest sets as well. And the reason why I say that is because people are going to have more confidence in buying Rebellion, for instance, if they knew that when Rebellion rotated, there was still a way to play Rebellion against other humans. Right now, there's not, right? Just like Chaos Legion is going to rotate. And what are you going to do with those cards? I mean, you're just going to let them be played in Wild against other bots, because my organic human brain, as much as I'd like to say it's a good one, not that you know that with that 9-loss streak I went on recently. But I mean, I'm not as good as Xbot, I'm not as good as Archmage, and I'm probably not as good as that weird Hive Wizard that I just kind of showed you, the new competitor on the block, or any of the other bots that exist. Okay, they got a database that they pull from, and I'm just a soft brain human. You know, I can't compete with bots. I don't care if you say you're the best player in the world. Grandmaster chess champions lose to bots. You as a human playing Splinterlands will also lose to bots in their algorithmic ways of determining how to win. All right. So would it be rewarding? I feel that the Legacy would offer even more rewards than Modern, even if it had a slightly smaller SPS pool. Since the cost of entry is higher, I mean, Jotun and Kitty are expensive, less people would play in Legacy, which would mean the reward pool would be split amongst fewer players, making each battle more rewarding. If there's only like 1,000 people playing in Wild, right, then that reward pool is going to get split amongst fewer players than if there's 5,000 people playing in Modern with a similar reward pool, right? Then that's the reward pool in Modern divided by 5,000 instead of like the reward pool in Wild divided by 1,000. So I think that it would actually earn more in Wild, and it might draw people from Modern to play in Wild for those juicy rewards, right? So this would create an equilibrium between Modern and Legacy, where players bounce back and forth between the formats depending on which has higher rewards. If Modern's paying more, players will use more of their energy in Modern. And if Legacy's playing more, people will switch to Legacy. If we really wanted to encourage more cross-format play, we could even reduce energy refill costs, which would allow more people to buy energy and play more games. This in itself would burn more DEC, helping us achieve the SPS flywheel, since the amount of SPS you earn in a match is greater than the cost of the energy. You'd be incentivized to buy more energy, right? I mean, if you're earning $1, I'm just using random numbers. If you're earning $1 a win and energy is 25 cents and you can win 50% of the time, then you're going to net earn by burning DEC to buy more energy, right? Right now, I don't feel that's the case, since energy cost in higher leagues at least is greater than the value of the SPS rewards we receive. This, in conjunction with the removal of SPS from rewards chest, which is upcoming, could definitely change that. Let's see what you guys are saying right now. It can't do auto anymore. Under other buttons after you click. Okay. So Ime says, yeah, I'm in silver going against max decks. I guess they didn't play Modern before. Okay. So people are just talking about Modern and the new changes that happened in it, which are great in my opinion. Should bots get any of the reward pool? So here's one of the hot topics of discussion. Why reward bots at all? Aren't they just a drain on the ecosystem, an army of extractors who return nothing and take everything? And the answer to me isn't as black and white as it would appear. There are many investors who put a lot of money into the game but don't have time to play. And you may say that's a them problem, but they are still buying cards, packs, other resources, and contributing to the ecosystem. One of those guys is, for instance, Jedi Elf, okay? He buys tons of packs, but he doesn't have time to play, but he actually contributes to the ecosystem. He's got a lot of SPS. And like I said, he'd love to play more. He plays occasionally, but he's got a real job and real responsibilities. He can't spend the time to play, so he bots, right? So not everyone is an extractor. Some people just bought their main account. Not that I think that's necessarily the best thing to do, but I mean, even I bought in Wild with 2 alt accounts to try and earn some extra legendary cards, because my main account shits the bed all day, every day, and never actually pulls me any legendary. So I got to get them somehow. Even I bought. Does that make me an extractor? My bots own every card that I've given them, and I delegate them 30,000 SPS just to be able to play. So there are investor players that could just put all their assets on land, but they may want to accumulate reward cards for the times that they do get to play, or just to have a complete collection. And since you can't buy soulbound cards, at least right now, the only other way the passive investor player would be able to acquire them is through automation. Now, another problem with completely eliminating the reward pool for bots is that it would encourage them to try and bleed back into Modern or the newly created Legacy. Just like what I was talking about with some of them seeing the rewards are so good in Modern, why not create a battle helper that would get rewards in Modern, because the rewards are so much higher, or maybe a bot that gets something out of Modern, who knows? But I mean, if we take everything from them, they will try and backdoor to extract again. So cutting the reward pool for them already hurts their profits, and I'm sure they may vote against it if it comes to proposal, since it's against their best interests. But if the rewards were literally zero, they would act maliciously, since there's a sunken cost they would try and recuperate, and this isn't a sunken cost fallacy. This is a true loss of investments and earnings on their part. Because right now, this is their business model, right? And if suddenly we were to say, you know what, there are no bots allowed anywhere, then they're going to be like, suddenly our revenue went from X, like whatever it was, straight to zero. We've already got this infrastructure that exists, all these tools that exists. Let's backdoor it. And I mean, we can always say, hey, it doesn't say don't make the tools, it says don't use the tools. So pretty much don't get caught. If you get caught, it's not on us. We're just providing the tools, and that's on you if you do get caught. Enjoy getting your account banned and suspended. So just think about Xbot and Archmage, who run on receiving a portion of the SPS earned in battles. Those are public bots who will already take an earnings hit in the creation of a third format. Imagine the private bots that exist who are presently following the rules, but are largely undetectable. Do you think they would just abide by the rules if it represented a total loss of their revenue? Giving Wildbot League something is a concession to the fact that bots exist and that investor players exist. Eliminating bots completely will also completely crash the rental market and may have other effects like the mass sell-off of assets from the investor players and farms who now have no use for cards. Some may see this as a good thing, but overall the economy would suffer and we'd lose many of the big investors who are busy making money at their actual jobs and have no time to play, but want to interact with the ecosystem on more than a land-only basis. Now, I'm just going to go and I'm going to show you my rental account one more time here, just so you guys can actually see the kind of cards that are renting my cards, the kind of accounts that are renting it. So we got Dadreen 02, Isco 004, Apprentice 7, and Will might be legit. That seems like a real player. But Wace 21, Ricky 15 143, Brennan Vans 5066, Choji 469899756. Like, those are not human accounts, those are bot accounts. Basically, everything that's being rented right now are all being rented by bots like Ding996 and Trump277 and stuff like that, and Benz1206. So by completely eliminating bots, we'll also crash the rental market, which, like I said, some people might not care. But I mean, people like me who have cards to rent, are just like, oh man, if no one's renting them, I mean, why do I even have these cards? You know, if I can't bot with them and I can't rent them out, I mean, I may as well just sell them. Like, why am I holding them? You know, why am I holding them? So that could cause some unforeseen market complications as well. Now, what should the reward pool split be? Take it easy, Ime. Thanks for tuning in, my man. I propose that it's a Modern 40, Legacy 30, and Wild 30. But I could also be convinced to go down to like Wild 25 and Legacy 35. But I already kind of got some feedback from iProto, who's kind of like in charge of Archmage, who said, man, if you reduce these costs too low, like the amount too low, then we won't be able to even stay in business. And then we'd end up resulting in kind of like what I talked about up here, which was they'd go underground. I'm not saying that Archmage will go underground. I'm not saying that any other botting services would. I'm just saying that basically in my original kind of idea, I had it at 40, 40, 20. And iProto was basically like, yeah, with only 20%, we wouldn't be able to even maintain server costs, basically. We'd have to shut down. And like I said, they're probably going to go somewhere. I mean, I'm not trash talking Archmage. I think Archmage is one of the most ethical bots that exist. I've loved Archmage since when they first came out. I actually even got to do some Archmage giveaways back on Splinterlands TV. So I got nothing but respect for Archmage. But I mean, if they go under, they put a lot of money into this coding and they might not be happy about it, just like the other bots, and they might do something, you know? So these numbers can be discussed, but I feel like based on there being less players who would opt to play in Legacy over Modern, that the rewards would still end up equal to Modern or more because of the higher cost of entry. Like I was saying, kitties and Yodens. We also want to encourage Modern play as much as possible so that the highest rewards still fall into the newest set, which will eventually rotate into Legacy anyway. And while 30% may seem small, we're talking about Legacy, without the bots draining the pool, I feel like the rewards will actually increase exponentially and will be more than enough to raise both the value of the good older cards that will be competitive in the format, as well as encourage their rental. Because right now you don't need to rent good cards in Wild. You just need to play a bunch of bad cards because the bots you're facing are also bad. So you don't need good cards. You don't need a Spirit of the Wild to play in Wild because none of them have it. You'll just crush them, right? You don't need to rent those cards. So here's another format suggestion that came out that I feel is not the best way to approach it. I feel like Legacy is superior to this Vintage format. So some people have advocated for a third format called Vintage, a format that is legal for all non-modern cards to be played. So currently that would mean Untamed, Beta, and Alpha in their respective promos and subsets. And I don't feel this format is necessary and prefer Legacy for a few reasons. While Legacy doesn't create a scenario where there's a format for only non-modern cards to increase and stabilize the price of the older cards, I feel it puts value on the cards that are playable in older formats, the cream of the crop. And as you guys know, I've said so many times before, good cards are good and will see play, and bad cards are bad and won't. And there's no need for us to create formats that are designed just to help retain values of older cards. We're fortunate that we have land where bad cards can be retired and turn their swords to plowshares and be laid to rest forevermore. Besides, in time, Chaos Legion will leave Modern and fall into Vintage anyways, and once the Alpha, Beta, and Untamed cards that this format exists to protect will fall to the wayside under the oppressive power of Chaos Legion cards. So basically, once Chaos Legion leaves Modern and goes into this Vintage format that they're suggesting anyway, Vintage is done. It'll just be taken over by Chaos Legion anyway, and we'll end up with exactly the same problem, except now Modern cards still can't be played in it, which is a barrier to wanting to buy more Modern packs, which keeps the company afloat, you know? So Vintage would be a temporary retrieve at best, while Legacy would be a permanent solution. And again, I can't say this enough. Good cards are good, bad cards are bad, and the market will dictate prices without the need of artificial formats created to temporarily preserve the prices of older cards, right? So my conclusion here, I hope that you guys have enjoyed reading the opinions on a third league Legacy and how it would help bring Splinterlands to even greater heights. I feel it's beneficial since it will create a human versus human league for older cards, add value and desirability to playable rotated cards, and encourage the purchase of the newest set since there would be confidence that they could still earn post-rotation. While it doesn't outright eliminate bots, it offers a concession to player investors and a place where bots can still play without dipping too deeply into human rewards. So thank you for reading. I'd appreciate a comment and feedback. Leave me a comment in the video as well that I'll be dropping. Probably this video, if you're watching it, obviously this is the video. Let me know what you guys think about the 3-format solution. Now, I have some comments on this. So I want to give a shout out to Azarcon, who actually gave me a Hive payout here, and it ended up being something crazy like something like $8 just for upvoting my stream, my post here. So thanks for that, Azarcon. Really appreciate it. And he said there's major occurrences already happening on the 29th. He wants to test it out before anything new. And I agree with that. Let's give it some time. I'm not saying that we should do this right away, but I am saying let's go ahead and let's start working and thinking about this way to combat bots, because we know that in Splinterlands time, 6 months may as well be 6 years. If we don't have the framework in place for when it is to be implemented, if we don't have like the DAO vote already completed about this new split between 3 leagues, and by the time we start thinking about it, it'll be like a year before implementation. So we may as well start thinking about it right now. So SPR Stoner says, I find Wild is the more fun version. I wish bots didn't exist, and I do not have the solution, but this feels like abandoning my favorite version. And I said, I feel like this is revitalizing your favorite version because it'll actually give you a place to play human on human without the bots. Winter Roll says, I believe the reward split should have less split for Wild, given that the new system, the only players left in Wild are bots, and giving them as much percent as Legacy will only encourage bot activity. So he's saying that he thinks bots should have less and Wild should have more. And again, after talking with iProto, we don't want the bots to go underground and basically say, hey, we're just going to circumvent the system now. Now, here's a very interesting one by Ivax Power, all right? I thought about this one for a bit after I read it. I think splits like this should be decided by stake-weighted voting on the distribution. Essentially, the way it works is like this. Whatever pool exists, the DAO votes on the distribution of the funds act dynamically. You'd allocate a portion of your SPS as a percentage towards whatever pools you want funded. If you only support one pool, then 100% of staked SPS goes towards that pool. And if you want to support multiple, then you divvy up your vote as desired. The real amounts allocated to each of the pools is simple math and adding up the staked SPS votes for any pool assigned to that percentage of the pool. So basically he's saying, hey, if you feel like botted Wild should have more, you allocate more of your SPS and a vote towards it. If you think Modern should have most of it because you're going to play Modern, you allocate more of your SPS, stake, and vote towards Modern. While I really like this idea, I feel like it might put too much emphasis on one pool or another. And if we're trying to encourage as much Modern play as possible, you really want to make sure that you give the most to Modern. And you don't want to risk it being like, hey, you know what? Most whales are botters, and therefore all of the rewards stay in true Wild. And Legacy gets nothing, basically, and Modern might even end up with less than the 40%. I just don't feel it's worth the risk in giving this power to people, because what this is doing, this is trying to drive an action in a certain direction. You're basically saying, no, we want to encourage Modern as the biggest format, and we want to put some emphasis on Wild and some on bots, but we also want there to be rewards some emphasis on legacy and some emphasis on wild. But we want there to be a healthy reward pool for legacy, and we want there to be a share for wild, but we don't want the share of wild to be like 50% and then 30% for modern and 20% for legacy. Like, I feel like the split is designed in this way, or whatever the vote ends up being, however things end up working out, in order to drive action in the direction that we desire, not to potentially have it broken up in a way that's undesirable, which could mean even more for bots if we do this, right? We don't know how the vote would end up. And if the vote ends up, no, actually 80% of staked SPS wants wild to have the most, now modern has like maybe 15% and legacy has 5%, and we've actually just given more to the bots, you know? I just don't feel like giving options like this is the best way to drive the desired result that we're looking for, which is more SPS in the hands of human versus human play instead of botting play and BH play and whatever else may occur. And that was the end of those comments there. So, like I'm saying, I would love to have you guys and your feedback. What do you guys think about this 3-league solution? Is it a good idea, a bad idea? I've got a little clip here from Matt in the town hall today, because I asked Matt what he thought of it. Let's find out what Matt thought about this idea. I'm going to turn up the volume. Hopefully it doesn't end up to be too loud. Let's turn off the music. Let's hear what Matt has to say, and we'll go out on that. Here we go.
About bots. Have you had a chance to think about a 3-format solution to bots? I'm not going to read the whole question, but I guess the idea is having a wild format for non-bots, and then a third format that's bots only. I'm definitely open to it. I've been very hesitant to add more formats because I feel like we're already struggling to maintain enough battle liquidity in the 2 formats.
Like what Azarcon said.
So again, if we're successful at having more and more players come in, I would be much more open to having more formats. Just because I'm hesitant to do it doesn't mean that we won't do it, or it might not be a good idea. So if that's something like more and more players think is a good idea, we can give it a try. And worst case, if it doesn't work out well, we can always go back, I guess. But that's just the way I'm leaning right now, is like, don't want to add more formats and have more chance of people not being able to find battles.
So there you go. So Matt's not necessarily against it, but he at the same time doesn't want to end up having low match liquidity, which absolutely fair point. Can totally see where he's coming from. And Azarcon said it too. He said, hey, I want to see how things roll out first over the next few months. But like I said, this is just more about getting things prepared, because we move as slow as molasses in January, and at least having talked about and maybe setting up and creating a framework for, if it is going to be implemented, having it ready to go, like at the door, clothing's on, you're getting to the bus stop, kids, and you're not going to miss the bus. I feel like that's valid. So there you go, guys. That was just talking about a 3-league solution to botting. How do you guys feel about that? Leave me a comment. Is that the answer to bots? Does that give bots something? Does it allow automation for player investors? How do you feel? Drop me a like, share, subscribe. Let me know how you feel about the 3-bot solution. This is the Psy signing off. Take care, my friends. Till next time.